Namaskar, thank you very much. Welcome to all of you post lunch. खाना बहुत बढ़िया था तो आप सभी लोगों को जगा के रखने की जिम्मेदारी इस पैनल की है. As a moderator, I take this onus. और डाइवर्सिटी, इक्विटी और इंक्लूजन पे है ये पैनल. और यदि मैं डाइवर्सिटी की बात करूं तो एक्चुअली बड़ा डाइवर्स पैनल है. और डाइवर्सिटी का मतलब सिर्फ महिलाओं से और पुरुषों से नहीं होता, इसका बहुत वृहत मतलब है. आप देखिए, हमारे इस पैनल में रोटी भी है ज़ोमैटो, कपड़ा भी है फ्लिपकार्ट, पैसा भी है हिंदुजा, टेक्नोलॉजी भी है सिनॉप्सिस, एक मकान की कमी रह रही थी, उसकी कमी मैं पूरी कर देता हूँ, गाड़ी भी है मिंडा कॉरपोरेशन. सो दिस इज सच एन डाइवर्स पैनल फॉर ऑल ऑफ यू. Let me set up the tone by talking about these three notions: diversity, equity, and inclusion. This promotes fair treatment and participation of underrepresented, discriminated community, people. Diversity, जिसका मतलब विविधता होता है. Here we'll be talking about gender, ethnicity, sexual orientation, disability, age, culture, class, religion. We'll be talking about opinion and what not. Equity, samanta, hissedari, where we'll talk on the concept of fairness, justice, fair compensation, equality, decision making, authority, societal disparities. And finally about inclusion, जिसे हम हिंदी में समावेश कहते हैं. Inclusion में we'll be talking about the voices to be heard, the sense of belongingness, integration. DEI typically, यदि हम इस शब्द को सुनते हैं तो हमारे दिमाग में क्या आता है? हमारे दिमाग में आता है कॉर्पोरेट की ट्रेनिंग है, डाइवर्सिटी इंक्लूजन की ट्रेनिंग है जिसको ह्यूमन रिसोर्स डिपार्टमेंट कराने वाला है. और इसमें वो ज्ञान आने वाली है कि महिलाओं को कैसे इंक्लूड करें वर्कफोर्स में. डू यू थिंक इट्स जस्ट अबाउट अ ट्रेनिंग ऑफ ह्यूमन रिसोर्स डिपार्टमेंट? एंड इफ नॉट, देन व्हाट इज दिस? इज इट जस्ट अ फ्रेमवर्क दैट हिस्टोरिकली हैड सम concept and it emerged from that? Or is it something beyond? And if this is beyond, then these are three value-driven concepts: the diversity, the equity, and of course, the inclusion. इतिहास में लेकर जाता हूँ आपको. Historically, this DEI concept, how this got started. यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका में 1961 में जॉन कैनेडी ने एफर्मेटिव एक्शन एक मुहिम की शुरुआत की थी. एंड देन फ्रॉम देयर ऑनवर्ड्स इट स्टार्टेड. काफ़ी डिबेट हुआ था 1980s में, काफ़ी पुल एंड पुश फैक्टर्स थे, थियरी ऑफ क्रिटिसिज्म भी आया, बहुत सारे सवाल पूछे गए इसके बारे में. रेटोरिकली टुडे इन 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24 में आप देखें अभी का जो समय है, इस समय में द concept of affirmative action is being replaced by the concept of DEI. Time magazine had stated in 2019 that DEI industry has exploded in size. And if you look at the value of this market, this was expected to be $7.5 billion market in the year 2019, and it is expected to grow by $17.5 billion market by the year 2027. तो वित्तीय तरीके से भी इसका एक खास महत्व है. McKinsey found that there is a co-relationship between financial benefits and DEI. तो इसके फायदे हैं. इसका सिग्निफिकेंस है और कैसे है, ये हम जानने का प्रयास करेंगे हमारे इस पैनल के माध्यम से। सबसे पहले मैं स्वागत करता हूँ, शिल्पा जी हैं हमारी एग्जीक्यूटिव वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हिंदुजा ग्रुप से। शिल्पा, माय फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन टू यू, how do you look at, or how would you like to explain about diversity, equity, and inclusion?
Hi, I'm audible? Yeah. So I'll start with something which has happened today. I don't know if you've read it, but justice will no longer be blind. Blindfold is off from the new Lady Justice statue in Supreme Court. And what did our CJI say today? He said, the law is not blind. It sees everyone equally. This is about emphasizing fairness with awareness. I think this is the moot point, equally. That's the most important thing, and it is happening today. Now, again, I like to explain, while there are lots of definitions and lots of statements that organizations include in their vision and mission of being an equal opportunity employer, person, welcoming people from all kinds of communities, marginalized, impact sourced into their workforce. I'd just like to explain DEI in a very simple manner. Getting a seat on the table, I think, is diversity for me. It's very simple. Having the right to talk on that table is equity. And getting my voice heard and my advices and my suggestions implemented is inclusion. That's what DEI is for me. You'd like to add something? You take care of diversity and inclusion, Vibha.
Very, very beautifully put. And it really is that simple. It's often looked at as a very complex concept. It's sometimes looked at as only an HR concern. It's actually something which each one of us is responsible for, and each one of us drives. So, and it's no longer about welfare. It's also a business requirement. It's also the way to the future, and it's also on how to increase productivity and efficiency by taking everyone into account and growing together. So it's no longer, I think, the buzzword that it used to be. It's a lot larger, but yet so simple.
Thanks.
बहुत बढ़िया। और कोई इसमें ऐड करना चाहेंगे? विजय? We don't have actually, but निश्चित रूप से the problem statement is explained. And Vijay, I'm likely to come to you, but before I come to you, the problem statement here is about inaccessibilities, is about opportunities to be given, which is not there, the dearth of opportunity for a particular section of the society, set of people, the rights for them, the justice for them, the narrative of equity, the narrative of equality. These are the problem statements, and we're trying to address that. So Vijay, I would like to come to you. I know about your organization that you've been working for people with disability also, other than the LGBTQIA plus community and many other communities that you have. Let me talk a little bit about people with disability first of all. We all know about the 2.2% of the population, as per census 2011, that the total population का लगभग 2% people with disability हैं. But post 2016, with the new RPWD Act, there are 21 types of disability. तो आज जो संख्या होती है वो मोटा मोटी 8 से 10 करोड़ लोगों की संख्या होती है people with disability की संख्या. While India is having 75% of literacy, people with disability is having 55%. Problem की शुरुआत वहाँ से भी हो रही है. 50% of the PWDs are women, ladies and gentlemen. 4% of people with disability live alone, अकेले रहते हैं वो. There are many other issues too. For that reason, before I come to Vijay, let me give you one introspection. सोचिए, आप सभी लोग सोचिए जो यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं, एक पीडब्ल्यूडी के बारे में, एक दिव्यांगजन के बारे में. अब आप सोचिए एक महिला दिव्यांगजन के बारे में. अब आप सोचिए एक रूरल महिला दिव्यांगजन के बारे में. इसके बाद आप सोचिए एक प्रेग्नेंट रूरल महिला दिव्यांगजन के बारे में जिसके पास डिसेबिलिटी कार्ड नहीं है और इंश्योरेंस भी नहीं है. I'm trying to take you to the depth of the problem statement that we have. And this is what we are trying to find out the solution for. And my friends right here have done a lot of works for that. And for that reason, I'd like to go to you, Vijay. And Vijay, please throw some challenges about the implementation of the projects on LGBTQIA++ community, the works that you have done. And also if you can touch upon some of the works on people with disability.
Sure. So before I put my insights on the challenges that are associated, generic, the problem statements that we were talking about, in my view, I'll just sum it up in one statement, is that still, no matter how many policies and how many frameworks have been built around this, the prevailing problem still is then them versus we, or we versus them. That needs to be curbed down. And all of the work that's been happening is to remove the divide that's there. So that's the problem statement that I see. Now coming to the challenges, keeping it very, very precise and ground realities, the ground challenges that I think is mobilization is one issue that is way more than prevalent. Like we all know about the midday meal scheme, right? It was, obviously it was for the nutrition, but there was a hidden component that was incentive for presence. The parents knew that my child will get a meal there, a lunch there, and we should be sending that child to the school. Nutrition then became second. Similarly, in this case, incentivizing people for just being present. Now, I have been questioned on why are you incentivizing people for just being present, questions by the board. But there were no questions on why are you incentivizing other groups like probably slum children. It's very easy to justify the behavior of slum children or people coming from the slums, but it's very difficult to justify the behavior of a roadside transgender, or maybe people who are involved in other activities that might not be ethically correct in the eyes of the society. So that is one problem. Second is something that's very internal, and I think it comes from the leadership. Sometimes the approvals take time, because if you don't have a leadership that has a very broad mindset, it can create problem or hindrances to your projects. So you need to satisfy and tell them that, okay, we need to grow. We need to understand that diversity is beyond what we have been doing. And others are like, obviously, and organizations who are into, who are working with LGBTQIA population must understand that if you are doing an income generation project or a livelihood project, make sure that you have the placements target very, very justifiable. Do not make it over ambitious, because numbers won't get you anywhere except for an award. But mind you, it's very important to have a very justified target here.
So it's about a very practical kind of an approach, Vijay, which you're saying that should be adopted. And yes, the leadership has a role to play. And yes, the solution is there with integration of this set of communities. Fine, thank you very much, Vijay. I now come to Pooja. Pooja, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि यदि किसी के ज़िंदगी को सस्टेनेबल बनाना है तो उसको किसी इनकम जनरेशन के एवेन्यू से जोड़िए. Do you think that skilling, employment, entrepreneurship, these things are the solution for the diversity inclusion?
Thank you, Praveen. So, before I come to respond to your question, I would just like to say, I think to begin with, I really believe that for making diversity, equity, and inclusion a true reality, what we need is more of a comprehensive or a holistic approach. And coming to the part of, the skilling, employment and entrepreneurship, of course, for sure, they do help. They do advance the larger objectives of advancing, creating an inclusive society for sure. But I think the need is having a more holistic approach. It also calls for a kind of, if we talk about mindset shift, so it calls for a mindset shift for all of us. It also calls for a policy change and a larger societal reform. Because what are we talking about? We are talking about, undoing centuries-old issues in many cases, and also trying to create a equitable, more equitable kind of a world, which is more inclusive, where everyone grows and thrives primarily. Now, I'll come to the question part of it, and just for the benefit of the audience out here, of course, I represent Flipkart Foundation, so I would be talking from the lens of the work on the ground, rather than, from an HR perspective primarily. So we do a lot of work, and we are a young foundation, just about 2 years old right now, but we do a lot of work with these underrepresented, difficult to reach groups, if I may say. So a lot of work with the LGBTQ people, persons with disabilities, women, and many other difficult to reach groups primarily. Now coming to skilling, and I'll pick up skilling, employment and entrepreneurship separately, Praveen, for a reason. Because see, one line answer is, I think all of them create avenues of opportunities, and the minute you're creating access to opportunities, you're creating a world of possibilities. That's one side of it. But I just want to break it for a minute to explain how it sort of works in our scheme of things primarily. So for skilling, and at Foundation, what we primarily say is education and skilling, these are two critical parameters which make DIE reality a possible thing primarily. And to take this forward, I personally always say that skilling is an extension of education to a very, very great extent. So essentially, through skilling, what are we trying to attempt? We are trying to create more opportunities on the ground for the people. And the idea is, the minute they have access to more opportunities, we have created we have removed those barriers to their growth path primarily. Coming to employment, I think the stance that we have taken at Foundation largely is to say that we want to create employment opportunities as part of skilling programs. So not just pure skilling, but skilling which translates into employment opportunities on the ground, because that's the first step for someone to get into the journey of empowerment per se. But I just also want to make one larger point here. Employment is not just hiring, and I'm sure many of us here will resonate with that. It got to go beyond that. It got to go to a realm where we also talk about creating supportive, enabling environments where they can grow and bloom to their optimum primarily. So, and I think somewhere through all these stages, what is important is that we do away with our biases. Coming to the entrepreneurship, and quickly, I think all of us here would agree that right now the time is ripe for entrepreneurship. We are seeing massive acceptance for entrepreneurship, and I'm also talking in context of the micro and nano entrepreneurs primarily. And we see innovations, we see there are funds available today, credit linkages happening. And two quick last points to make. I think the technology, when we are talking about DEI, even from skilling, employment and entrepreneurship perspective, I think technology plays a massive role in democratizing a lot of these things and enabling a lot more in today's time and age primarily. And I think Vibha talked about it in the beginning. I would just quickly sort of just reiterate that. DEI starts with each one of us. And I think it's about each one of us doing our own bit to create a world which is a lot more equitable and trying to consciously avoid the biases that have been coming in and creating an enabling environment for the underrepresented groups to grow. Thank you, Praveen. I'll stop here.
Lajawab, I think you summarized in a very nice way, and the key takeaway for me is employment is just not about hiring, but you require enablers for it. And for that reason, I would also like to take example of my organization. I work for Spark Minda Group, and we are a proud employer of 1,300 people with disabilities in our organization, the largest in the country. So thank you very much. And let me tell you that it was just not about the hiring for them, but it was about creating that ecosystem to have them and to make them feel about their rights, about the equality, the equal opportunity, the policy that we have created for them. And with our programs, we have reached to close to 20,000 people with disabilities so far, pan-India, outside India as well, wherever we have our factories. And technology, you said there's a role of technology for doing any such integration, Pooja. While we are having people with visual impairment working in our manufacturing, small modifications have make the lives easier for both. For example, if there's a punching machine coming from the top and the hand comes in between, we have installed a sensor which will stop the punching machine to punch the hand. So such kind of ergonomical changes we have brought in our organization to employ. And our employee voluntarism, that plays a major role in such inclusivity because they volunteer to be the buddy for these people with disabilities. Well, we'll talk a lot about it, but let me go to Vibha. Vibha is a DEI manager from Zomato or Zomato?
Zomato.
Zomato, that's the right, you're getting it from her. So, Vibha, what role does the leadership think will play in DEI?
Thank you, Praveen. And I think Vijay and Pooja both touched upon this briefly, but I'll probably just dive deeper into it. The leadership, in my opinion, plays the most critical role because they're the ones who actually have to believe in the agenda and have to create that culture and that sense of trust within the organization, right? So they need to, the trust factor is so important so that employees can feel comfortable enough to be themselves, to talk about who they are, where they're from, what are their abilities. Leadership needs to be able to have that vision which sees the business benefits of including diverse groups into their organization. So I would probably say 4 really critical points: inspire trust, create that vision, create a strategy. Often DEI is just taken as a social, as a CSR agenda. It needs to have a clear strategy. It needs to have clear targets and goals, which are preferably made public. I often do not see organizations have very public DEI goals, especially with respect to their value chain or other worker groups. And lastly, see through that. See through the policies, see through the culture, and be the true flag bearer of that. So I think those are some of the really critical points that leadership needs to incorporate and set the tone for the entire organization. If anyone would like to add to that, go
I
ahead,
think
yeah.
a very critical point that you made, which is about having a clear goal in place. Because DEI, while, as everyone says, is the right thing to do, it also has a very, very important business imperative as well. And you touched upon that earlier. So at my organization, I mean, specifically speaking of AGS, today we are more than 50% women across all our geographies. And that has not just happened like that. It has been a targeted intervention which started with bringing women on board proactively, giving them the right ecosystem to thrive and to grow, having clear integrated programs for their training, bringing returning mothers back to work, having a buddy system in place, having leadership opportunities for a woman to grow. So that's a strategy. You need to have a clear-cut model in place to make sure your people, A, are succeeding, and the most important things, they are being themselves. They are able to bring their authentic selves to work. I think that's the most important thing that the leadership can enable. They can help in enabling an ecosystem where our people can be ourselves.
Absolutely. Just if I could add one more point to that. I think one great strategy is to have diversity in leadership itself. Create those role models to inspire greater amount of trust in your employees. I don't see a lot of diverse board of directors or leaderships in a lot of companies, and that's something probably I would urge leadership to think about and set those role models so that your women can think of being the CEO, COO one day and aren't only probably in the lowest strata of your organization. Another thing probably is when you're taking goals for diversity, take a role-wise or a pay grade-wise target, not only having diversity where it's the easiest to have. So those are just some suggestions.
Wonderful. Shilpa, you talked about the workplace and the role of leadership, of course, in that. When it comes to the tribals, the minority groups, the community from the rural bands of the country, how does it works in an organization? Maybe you can take reference of some of the policies that you have in your organization, and then you can explain it.
I think when it comes to integrating rural communities, marginalized communities, you spoke about tribal minorities as well. It is about, and Vijay, I'm going to use the words, access and presence. That's the most important thing that any company has to have in its policy. Today at AGS, we have integrated rural development programs, and some of the communities that I am personally involved with are in Gudlur, in Nilgiris. And there, it is about everything. It is about a midday meal program, which ensures that the child is coming to school. It is about a road to school program, which ensures that they are there from a certain class 2nd to 8th. Then it is about a road to livelihood program, which is getting them ready for college. It is also about positive parenting program, which is about telling their parents on how to take care of their children and ensure that they continue to get educated and skilling. So it's about having an integrated program with lots of projects coming together to make the life better of that one child. And specifically when it comes to AGS, we do something which is called impact sourcing. We look at our numbers very, very carefully, Pooja, Vibha, to your point. Numbers, data is very, very important. We look at where are people coming from, how are we, and that is the basis of a lot of our policies as well. Globally, we look at that, and we crucially monitor our impact sourcing numbers, where's in the community of our people, how many veterans we have, how many people from various communities we have, and that becomes the basis of a lot of our policies.
So certainly this critical analysis and baselines, the numbers that you talked about, that's important to touch upon
Yes.
different bands, different communities. Thank you. Vijay, different locations की बात हो रही है, हमने organization की बात कर ली, policies की बात कर ली. Let me now bring it to the government. Can we bring in the government schemes which is there maybe for some particular community to whom you can get an access it to, maybe to people with disability or the trans community? If you would like to throw some light on
Sure.
that.
So we have been working with the trans community for last 2 years, and it has been quite challenging, as I mentioned in my previous dialogue. but the government schemes actually play a great role in shaping their lives. We need to be very, very critical in designing the projects when we are dealing with this community. Only giving training to these people won't help, and especially when you are dealing with the BPL category. So in transgenders also, there are elite transgenders, right? But we are dealing with the people who are at the below poverty line. So government schemes, firstly, for this community, the most important thing is identity. Identity is the most crucial and important aspect of these kind of programs. So firstly, you need to ensure that they have TG cards, TG certificates issued by National Portal of Transgender Persons. That enables them to get access to the SMILE scheme. And under SMILE scheme, these transgenders can actually get a benefit of 5 lakh rupees, which includes sex reaffirmations, cosmetic surgeries, and redeemable at any government or private hospitals. And the role of the partner organizations here, anybody who's working in this field, is to ensure that the program encompasses all those things, includes all those aspects. Number 3 would be very important, because once you train and you make them sufficient for income generation, other aspect is how do you get into the financial inclusion part of it. Now, Jan Dhan accounts are very, very helpful for this category, and there is no barrier to it. Like, okay, we are dealing with transgenders, no, they cannot open. No, it's not there. Everybody can open. It has got accidental benefits, it has got overdraft facilities, voluntary pensions, and a number of benefits are associated with it, and plus they have an identity of their own. When the SMILE scheme gives them a recognition, they can actually get their identity changed in the Aadhaar cards as well, which is very important to them, because Aadhaar cards were made in a time when probably they were with their families or they were really young, trying to figure out who they are. But over time, they realized that, okay, this is not what I am, but this is what I am. So they need to change everything physically and virtually. So yeah, I think the government schemes can play a very great role in shaping them.
Thanks, Vijay. When we have tried to include the government programs in our program for people with disability, we found that there's something called UDID card, which is a disability certificate for people with disability. If they do not have it, they cannot get a reservation of 4% in government jobs. They cannot get subsidies on transport and many other access for that reason, which is there from the government side. So ensuring that facilitation, that accessibility is quite significant. And of course, the government programs are there. You talked about the role of NGOs too. So we have also been working with close to 35 NGO partners pan-India. And we are so proud to be working with them that they have made our access easier. They have taught us that how to work with people with disability. What are the sign language? What are the skills that they can imbibe to? How to reach to that rural corner. There are people who are not in the census, but these NGOs are in touch with. There are people who do not have any disability certificate, मगर उसका पैर कटा हुआ है और उसे पता है कि वो एक दिव्यांगजन है. What else do you need? So to ensure that reach, NGOs are important. And of course, the government programs are there. So thanks, Vijay. Well, we talked about the government, we talked about the NGO, we talked about the policies at the corporate. Now let me come to Pooja. Pooja, I place your question for the role of partnerships and collaborations for projects related to maybe PWDs, trans community, or any other diverse group.
Sure, Praveen. So I think, as Corporate Foundation, all our projects are run in partnership with the NGO partners on the ground. And first and foremost, if we could have one round of applause for those all NGO partners on the ground who are doing some amazing work. So honestly, I truly come from the school of thought that collaboration or a partnership approach is what really works. And I also say this is a decade, because we've also seen shifts in the social sector primarily. And I say this is a decade where we are talking about collaborations, networking, coalitions, and all of that to happen. And I think there's a need for strengthening them more and more. Now, we do work with the NGO partners on the ground, and of course, because they bring the experience on the ground, and I think what is needed is to respect their experience on the ground first and foremost. And I think second thing is, the shift from having this relationship of a funding partner vis-a-vis implementing partner, more like a collaborative approach wherein both come together to create genuine social impact. And I think that's the philosophy we have been trying to address internally to a very great extent. So there's a lot of co-creation happening. Again, from a partnership ethos perspective and the kind of sector we are in, I always say you've got to have a certain flexibility built in the entire scheme of things, because what may work in X location doesn't necessarily work in Y location, and we all have our stories of surprises of things not working for different reasons on the ground. So I think that flexibility, openness to innovation, respecting the partners, and being alive to the fact that this is a very nuanced thing that we are trying to accomplish together. It's not a straightforward thing, and I don't even want to make it look like a straightforward. It's a very complex thing in itself. So that really calls for looking at that nuanced, sensitive approach to address a bigger problem that we are all trying to address together. Now, quickly to talk about the PWD, because we work with persons with disability. So what we have done is essentially the skilling programs for them. And while skilling is one component of it, we've also been providing assistive adaptive devices to give a holistic thing to the whole thing. And to tell the group here, we've been able to do 70% and above placement, coming back to the employment piece, because skilling plus placement is what makes it successful, what is empowering in itself. But I'll come to what Vijay talked about. When we did LGBTs, and we were very keen to work with them, because that's also one segment which needs to be reached. But Vijay talked about the challenges, and we had the same challenges when it came to the placement primarily. And the larger thing we heard, and I'm trying to connect the dots. When I initially said it's not just about hiring, it's about having an enabling environment. So I think the feedback we had was, that enabling environment many a times isn't there. So, so that's also very, very important from that perspective. And quickly to talk about, we do some work with the tribal women in rural hinterlands of the country. And then you there realize, we have been working with rural artisans primarily. And then we see the need for social security schemes to again translate DEI into action. So we have been providing, supporting them to get their artisan cards, health cards, PM Vishwakarma Yojana cards, to sort of stabilize them in ways possible primarily. And last one thing to talk about would be, again, we work with tribal women from a climate change perspective. Something to realize that how climate change today is impacting everything: health, education, livelihood, housing, and beyond. So I think that's where we have been trying to also work around the climate action piece to sort of resolve that vicious cycle out there. I'll pause here, Praveen.
Wonderful, Pooja. I think very well briefed, and this climate integration to this tribal women, that's a super integration, I would say. I would also like to take one of the examples of our program working at Spark Minda Group. We have been working with the women prisoners, and what we do, we teach them a skill to manufacture our automotive products. And the products that we manufacture, we supply to our customers. And the money that we get from our customers, we give this money to this women prisoners family for their sustenance. अब आप देखिए, एक महिला कैदी जेल में, कारागार में रह करके भी अपने परिवार को सपोर्ट कर सकती है. We have done it in many of the prisons of India, and we are continue doing it. इससे क्या फ़ायदा होगा? हमारे बिजनेस को भी फ़ायदा होता है. क्यों? क्योंकि वो जो प्रोडक्ट्स बनते हैं वो जीरो डिफेक्ट्स वाले बनते हैं. जो महिलाएं हैं जेल के अंदर आर्थिक रूप से इंगेज्ड हो जाती हैं, अर्निंग करने लगती हैं, they get a skill also with them, and tomorrow once they are out of the prison, they have a skill in their hand. They have a plan B for their life. They can get it. So many such examples, many such works can be done to address to the problem statement that we started the day with. So the final question to
Praveen, if I
Vibha.
can add
Yes.
one thing here, Pooja, specifically to your point on hiring, how do you bring in the people and what are the challenges that you are perhaps facing of hiring people with disabilities or other communities? I think at my organization at AGS, what we did was we have a big program running. I can't take the client name, but we went to the client and we remodified our JDs. We actually defined that, okay, this is the skill set needed and how and what we can do. So we then identified that these are the specific roles that can be done by a certain person with disabilities. And that's when we went ahead and hired them. So we went backward to solve the problem.
Point well taken, Shilpa. Quickly, I think the NGO partners on the ground have been doing the same all the time. It's a journey. And it's a long journey. So you see I talked about 70% placement. Honestly, for that segment, 70% placement is a great placement rate. But, the point is, you will still have your set of hurdles here and there because you're trying to sensitize, build that awareness in the larger ecosystem, which in itself is a humongous task. But yeah, just thank you.
It's also about the leveraging of the strengths, the strength that you might have, the NGO partner may not be having, and the strength that they have, we may not be having. Let us exchange that. Let's work together to do it. Final question to you, Vibha. Non-traditional livelihood opportunities. Is that a solution for PWDs?
Sure. So the gig economy, or as you may all be knowing, delivery partners, is a very rapidly growing economy or sector in India. And that currently is seen as a purely male-dominated area. Two very important skill sets required to be part of this gig workforce is knowing how to drive and having digital literacy. So knowing how to use a smartphone, actually not digital literacy in its true sense. And these are two skills which are transferable skill sets and improve overall well-being significantly. So if you have mobility and you know how to use a smartphone, it opens a bunch of other opportunities to you. So we actually have two very interesting projects for women and persons with disability in which we are trying to include greater number of women as delivery partners and persons with disability. I'll just quickly speak about our project on persons with disability because it's a very unique model. We've partnered with an organization called NeoMotion, which creates customized wheelchairs which have a front wheel attachment which converts that wheelchair into a roadworthy electric vehicle. And using this particular vehicle, persons with disability, specifically persons with locomotor disability, are able to deliver orders. And we currently have more than 1,000 such delivery partners in our fleet. And this not only has significantly improved their economic well-being, but also their social and their mental well-being. Because these were typically people, because of locomotor disability, they're confided to their households. They do not have a social life. They have not interacted with people for the longest time, and they're completely dependent on their families. So through this, they go out, they interact with customers, restaurant partners, of course, Zomato, and they're a lot healthier in so many different ways. One other massive outcome that we've been able to see of this project is sensitization for customers. When there is a person with disability delivering your order, often the individual asks for assistance if the location is not accessible. And when a customer really comes down and sees a person on a wheelchair delivering an order, not only are they inspired and motivated in their own personal lives, but it teaches them so much about disability, which a lot of people are scared about because they don't know about. And we think that it's been able to drive awareness and sensitization at a much larger level in the country as well. So that's one, two examples actually that Zomato is running to include greater number of women and persons with disability in non-traditional livelihood options such as delivery.
I think that's a great piece of work, and this is how the innovation also plays a role, technology plays a role, and how do you integrate all these things and bring things to a success. Well, I guess we, through this discussion, are able to address to the problem statement on this broad topic, DEI. Before I have to conclude, I think I have another 5 minutes, I guess. Do I have 5 minutes? No? Okay. So can I take maybe 2-3 questions? Another 2 minutes, right. Can somebody pass on the mic? I'd request you to restrict yourself to your introduction and question in 30 seconds. We are really running short of time. If somebody can please pass on the mic to the lady out there in the middle. You can take one of the mics from us also. Okay. Requesting you to restrict to your question. Please.
Hi. My question is, recently I am representing Tire Women as well as DEI from Ashray, Chandigarh. So my question is, when we are talking, recently I come to a question that when we are employing the women, so right now we have lot of laws regarding the POSH, security arrangements and many other things. Is it restricting the women for the employment and going to the higher positions in the decision-making positions, because it is adding burden to the companies? So is there any restriction to that? Another thing is, as you were talking about the climate change and the effect on women, last year we did a session on it and we discussed a lot on this, because the major effect of climate change is on the women and then on the children. So what are your insights on these two questions? Thank you.
All right. Is it addressed to somebody particular or
No,
anybody?
to all of you, anybody can answer.
Okay. Would you like to start?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So,
Quick.
POSH is an enabler, it's not a restrictor, if I can say that. There are organizations who actually hire women, and it's about sensitizing everyone around. So I would not say that having POSH and having many policies disable or don't encourage people to hire women. These are just things, these are just policies that have been put their
place in the
co-workers
ecosystem
to
to
welcome
encourage
them with
more
open
women to
hands. So
come
I
forward
don't
and join
think
the
these are
workforce.
deterrents. And also to
You know,
sensitize.
I believe this is a mindset.
Absolutely.
I mean, I do not find any hurdles in all that. If you feel that this is a problem, it's a problem. It's not actually a problem. Okay. How do you address to that problem statement? That's important. Okay. If there are challenges, I mean, see, if you look at the life of a lady, there are challenges with that, but they address to that. They handle it. Okay. And that's not a problem. That's actually the life. This is how the life goes on. So this is how the organization should also feel. And the best of the organization do not look at it. I mean, the best of the organizations looks at diversity to the, as one of their unique DNAs. And this is how it should be. On the climate piece that you asked, yes, I believe climate is something, and disaster is something which is completely gender neutral, and rather it impacts more to women. Okay. But Pooja, would you like to say something on that?
So I just want to talk about POSH first and foremost. I think in many organizations or companies today, POSH is even applicable not from a legal perspective, but from a good practice perspective for men as well. So not to talk about the fact, that's a limiting factor. I think to your second question, climate change is something that is impacting us all, and as things are, looks like climate action is going to be one bigger piece for everyone going forward working. Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, I would just like to add one last thing. I think from your question, I'm also taking a cue on, are there higher inputs that you need to give women employees than male employees, and that's why is there a burden on organizations? I think one very important thing that internally organizations can do if they do not want to refer to the existing research out there is a cost-benefit analysis. If you are spending slightly more on, say, any sort of training, sensitization, etc., what is the benefit that you are getting from it? And I can assure you from experience and all of the research that I have gone through that the benefits are far, far more than the amount that you are spending on any small training. So that is something that I would urge organizations to have a look at.
It's all in our mind. We can do it. So,
It's not a deterrent. Just keep that in mind, please.
So thank you very much to all of you to be the part of the panel here, and on my behalf as a moderator to this panel, thank you for joining in here. I guess, I believe we have addressed to this problem statement with this discussion. A lot of things that we discussed, we talked about the policies, the equal opportunities, the accessibility, integrations, we talked about leadership role, we're talking about the role of the government, the schemes, the policies that the government has, how do we access that, how do you play the role of a facilitator, you become a catalyst in between, you become a bridge, how do you connect the dots, the partnerships, collaborations, of course, to address to this, and if you look at the SDG part, to address to like SDG 10, which is reduce inequality, you need to have the solution, which is SDG 17, that's partnership for goals. And if we do that, we find out the solution to all that. With that, I promised you
Praveen,
for 55.
just one thing.
Yes, Vijay.
I think everyone highlighted something about their organizations. So there's one thing that I would like to state here, and this is going to be a very interesting takeaway for you guys.
30
very
seconds.
interesting. 30 seconds. 25. Go back, Google Hope in a Cup. Hope in a Cup, Hyderabad. That's a first queer-run cafe in Telangana. The cafe is totally queer-themed, and it's our intervention. It's been second year of that. It's so great, and the feeling when you get inside, the name is Hope in a Cup, and the tagline says serving equality. The menu, everything in the menu is priced at 377. So
Wonderful.
whenever you are in Hyderabad, just go and take a look. It's in Kondapur. It's beautiful. That's a good takeaway. Just Google it, and you will find it amazing. Thank you so much.
I hope they get a discount with your reference too.
Definitely, please.
Thank you very much to all of you. I promised you for 55 minutes, dot at 55 we are closing. Thank you.